My wife slept with her manager, while I raised our kids alone. Now I'm free, and she's just the mother of my children. I'm a selfish person. At least, that's what I keep telling myself, over and over again, almost every night, when the silence in my house becomes too loud. My kids aren't here. My ex-husband despises me, and he has every reason to. My family is fractured, and I've never stopped loathing myself for what I did. My selfish decision happened back in 2015. I had just turned 39, and honestly, I had taken my ex-husband completely for granted. He always made me feel loved, told me I was beautiful every single day, always wanted to be intimate, always supported me, and treated me like his equal. He didn't put me on a pedestal or treat me like royalty. I was his partner, his person. By then we had been married for 20 years, high school sweethearts, each other's first and only. It all felt so right. My family adored him, my brother looked up to him, and my ex had helped him through some of his darkest times. He was the one everyone called when they were in trouble, and he showed up every time. He truly was a good man. Over the years, I gave him 2 strong-willed boys. At the time of this story, they were 18 and 16, and we had twin daughters, 13 years old. I'd put on weight and started feeling self-conscious, but he still called me beautiful. Our arguments were rare, and we usually talked everything out. But when we did fight, it was mostly about sex, or more specifically, the lack of it on my end, and the things I refused to do in the bedroom. It wasn't that I didn't want to, I just wasn't in the mood. And he, being the man he was, always respected that. When I turned 39, I threw a birthday party that revealed the new me. I had spent the whole year in the gym, doing yoga and Pilates. I went from 180 pounds to 135. For someone who had always been on the heavier side, it was a life-changing transformation. My ex had joined me at the gym sometimes, not as much, but even he lost weight, dropping from 260 to 225 and starting to reshape his body. He couldn't keep his hands off me. And yet, strangely, I still wasn't in the mood. It wasn't for lack of effort on his part. We went out for dinner, danced, took walks together. He helped around the house, always stayed engaged. I could see it in his eyes. How much he loved me. How much he still desired me after 2 decades. Honestly, any woman would dream of that, but mentally I just couldn't feel it. I thought maybe I was entering early menopause. We were only having sex 2, maybe 3 times a month, and I was the one-and-done type, but he wanted more. No matter how much he tried, I just wasn't into it. He brought up couples counseling. I shut it down. And that's when my selfishness truly began. A new manager joined our office just days after my birthday. He was slightly younger, good-looking, and for some reason, he seemed interested in me. At first, I brushed it off. Then it turned into casual chats. Then came the flirting. I flashed him my wedding ring to make it clear, but after 2 months of non-stop flirting, I started flirting back. I confided in him about my life, and soon, I found myself thinking about him more and more. It started as an emotional affair. I can admit that now, but at the time, it felt intoxicating. My ex knew something was wrong. He could feel it. We had a heated fight about it. One I think he initiated because of a moment I didn't even realize I caused. He leaned in to kiss me, and I subconsciously made a disgusted face. It wasn't aimed at him. It was because, in that exact moment, I was thinking about the other man, and the thought made me feel sick. At least that's how I explain it to myself now. A week later, I asked the new manager to meet me at a cafe. My plan was to tell him it had to stop, that I couldn't do this. But before I could even get the words out, he kissed me, and my mind went completely blank. That was the start of our 6-month affair. During those 6 months, I did things with that man that my ex had begged me to do for years. I was more adventurous, more willing, more exciting. I was always willing, always in the mood. I think it was because it felt new and exciting. My ex and I still had sex during that time, but not often. I began distancing myself from him, nitpicking his small habits, even belittling him. I'm deeply ashamed of how I treated him. It only hit me when my brother came to visit and told me my ex had opened up to him. He said he felt unloved and was thinking about filing for separation, that he believed I had stopped loving him, and he was starting to fall out of love with me. That jolted me awake. I ended the affair immediately. I quit my job and promised myself I'd make things right. I would make my husband feel loved again. I would fight for our marriage. I'd be a better wife, if I still could. Then my affair partner showed up at my house with a box of things I'd left at the office, items I had requested to be shipped. We talked. He asked what he did wrong. I told him it wasn't about him. I needed to repair my marriage. I asked him to leave, But then he asked for one last time. He begged, he pleaded, and like a fool, I gave in. We went into the guest room. Things escalated. I don't know how long we were at it, but while he was on top of me, I suddenly saw him violently jerk backward, followed by a loud bang. I sat up, and my ex was standing there. My affair partner lay on the floor. There was a large hole in the wall behind him. I tried to say something, but my ex's eyes were bloodshot, tears streaming down his face. His lips trembled. He looked shattered. I had never seen him in so much pain. I felt sick. My AP slowly got to his feet and tried to leave. My ex stared at him, and then my AP said something that lit the fuse. He told my husband to back off if he knew what was good for him. My ex lunged. I screamed and begged him to stop. In desperation, I jumped on his back to pull him off, but he threw me to the floor. I hit the ground hard. Everything got hazy. Voices sounded distant and muffled. When I finally regained clarity, my ex had my AP pinned to the ground and was on the phone. All I could do was stare at my affair partner's swollen, bloody face. His teeth were scattered across the floor. Then came a loud knock at the door. I watched my husband calmly place the phone on speaker, lower it to the floor, drop to his knees, and put his hands behind his head. The door burst open. The police swarmed in and cuffed him. Paramedics rushed in soon after. Later at the hospital, my father didn't say a word. He just stared at me with disappointment. My brother was furious, yelling at me, crushed. "How could you do this to him?" he kept asking. My mother tried to comfort me, telling me it would be okay. But that only triggered my father, who yelled at her in rage. My ex's family was livid. His sisters threatened me, and his parents looked at me like I was poison. When I tried to speak to my kids, they turned away. My sons couldn't even meet my eyes. My daughters wouldn't speak to me at all. My AP was badly injured. He needed reconstructive surgery. My ex had completely destroyed his face. While I was still in the hospital, a woman stormed into my room and attacked me. My brother pulled her off. She was my affair partner's wife. I had no idea he was married. He never wore a ring, never mentioned it, not once. That revelation made me feel even worse. In the days leading up to the trial, my boys stayed with their grandparents. On my husband's side, my daughters continued to give me the cold shoulder. My ex didn't want to see me either. I tried to visit him at the county jail, but I was denied. My brother worked at a correctional facility and pulled strings to have my ex transferred there. He wanted to keep an eye on him. When I asked my brother to deliver a message to my ex, he looked at me and said, "Go to hell." The day of the trial was the first time I'd seen my husband in months. He looked at me with a fury I'd never seen. It shattered me. He had always looked at me with love. Even when we fought, there was always love. But in that courtroom, all I saw was hate. I had to excuse myself just to cry in the bathroom. As the days passed, I was forced to recount every detail of the affair. Everything, for all to hear. When I revealed how long it had gone on, I saw my ex's face crumble. My father stood up and silently walked out of the courtroom. During my ex's testimony, I learned the full story. He had come home that day to surprise me, with lunch and a weekend trip for two to the Catskills. He had planned a full romantic getaway. Instead, he walked in on me with another man. He explained that when my affair partner ordered him to step aside, something inside him snapped. He attacked him and only stopped when I jumped on his back, and he threw me off. That's when he called 911. They played the call in court, his trembling voice, his sobs as he followed the dispatcher's instructions. It was devastating to hear. My affair partner couldn't speak at the trial. He was heavily medicated. Instead, they showed photos of his injuries, and my stomach turned. My ex had shattered his eye socket, crushed his cheekbones, and destroyed his jaw. There were bone fragments too small to reconstruct. My ex was charged with third-degree felony assault and sentenced to 7 years in prison. When the verdict was read, my son stood up and protested. My daughters and his entire family let out this heartbreaking wail I can still hear in my mind. That sound haunts me. The first 3 months afterward were absolute hell. My affair partner's soon-to-be ex-wife sued me for alienation of affection. My husband filed for divorce. My eldest son moved out. My younger son stayed locked in his room. The twins rebelled in every possible way. One day, while at Price Chopper, my former sisters-in-law cornered me and physically attacked me. His mother spit in my face when I tried to apologize. My father and brother completely cut me off. Money dried up. I had to get a new job, but my career was effectively over. The accounting firm I worked for wanted nothing to do with the scandal. I was blacklisted. I ended up working retail and took a seasonal job with H&R Block during tax season. I nearly lost the house, My ex refused every single attempt I made to visit. Every letter I sent came back unopened. I cried in the shower almost every day. My parents' marriage began to unravel because my mother kept defending me, while my father couldn't stand the sight of me. My brother ignored me completely. Even my lifelong friends were divided. Some walked away. Eventually, I started thinking about disappearing altogether. The weight of the guilt was suffocating. I saw a therapist. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She told me flat out that I had gotten too comfortable, that I didn't treat my husband like a husband. I treated him like a friend with benefits. She was right. I did. I stopped seeing him for who he was. The man who loved me, the father of my children, the partner who desired me every single day. I took him for granted. Almost a year passed, an entire year of silence from my kids. When I cooked dinner, they'd come out, grab a plate, and go back to their rooms without even glancing at me. I had breakdowns. I'd fall to the floor and beg them to talk to me. Nothing. My brother got married. I wasn't invited. My kids were. I kept trying to visit my ex, hoping he'd finally add me to his visitor list. I was never allowed in. My letters still came back, unopened. The rejection crushed me and I knew I deserved it. Then one day, out of nowhere, my brother showed up at my door. I was stunned to see him, and part of me was hopeful. But he didn't come to reconnect. He came to scold me. He told me my ex had been stabbed. Apparently, an inmate tried to sexually assault him in his cell, and during the struggle, my ex was stabbed in the stomach. My ex fought back, broke the attacker's spine. My brother screamed at me, "You did this!" before storming back to his truck. I cried for days after that, because he was right. I did this. I tried visiting the infirmary, but I was denied again. For 4 more years, I kept writing letters. I tried reaching out. Every single one came back to me. Thankfully, our children still visited their father often. That's how I found out, through them, that he'd been placed in protective custody after the attack. My brother made it happen, to keep him safe. Over the years, my eldest son followed his father's path. He enrolled in the same college, chose the same major. He only calls his siblings. Never me. He doesn't come home for the holidays, only visits his grandparents. My younger son did the same. Same college, same silence. No calls, no texts. The twins were hard on me too, but they saw their father every week, and the visits helped improve their mood. Whenever my daughters became overly rebellious, their uncle was the one who stepped in and put them in their place. But even then, my brother and I barely spoke. When he and his wife had their first child, I tried to visit, but I was asked to leave. My mother was the only one who kept me updated about their lives. My father still acted as if I didn't exist. Then, at the beginning of May this year, something shifted. My kids were happier, and my sons came home. I didn't know the reason, and honestly, I didn't care. They were back, and for 4 months, they were around. I did everything I could to show them how sorry I was, but I was mostly ignored. Still, they talked to me, and that alone made my heart swell. Just having conversations, hearing about their lives, it meant everything. My eldest was in a relationship that had lasted over a year. My second son had joined his college's track team. Even my daughters started talking to me again. And as much as it warmed me, it also deepened my guilt. Seeing them smile again, joke with each other, eat dinner together, I had missed that so much. It reminded me of everything I'd broken. By the end of August, I was busy planning for the twins' first day of senior year, which happened to fall on their 18th birthday. I was thrilled and told them my ideas for a birthday celebration. Without hesitation, they asked if we could do it on a different day. I was confused. We were finally getting better, I thought. I asked why. One of them said plainly, "Because Dad is throwing us a party, and I don't want you near him." That hit me like a punch in the gut. I asked when their father was released. They said he got out at the end of April, for good behavior. I broke down. He was free. And it hurt even more because the reason they had been around wasn't because they were reconnecting with me. It was because he was back. Their joy, their renewed energy. It wasn't about healing with me. It was about having him in their lives again. I asked where he was staying. They told me he was living with my brother. I tried calling, desperately needing to talk to him, but he refused to answer. I drove over, holding every single letter that had been returned to me over the years. When I got there, I saw him briefly through the crack in the door. I called out his name. My brother told me to leave. I handed him the letters and turned to go. But as I reached the driveway, I heard his voice. I turned around to see him walking toward me. I broke down and rushed toward him, ready to hug him. But he handed me the letters. "You forgot these," he said coldly. I sobbed, watching him turn away. I begged him to stop, pleaded for him to talk to me, but he just walked back into the house. My kids stood silently at the door, and in their eyes, there was no love left for me. That was when I finally understood. They were only tolerating me, nothing more. Still, I'm trying. I want to tell them how selfish I was. I want to tell him how much I miss him, how deeply sorry I am for destroying the life we built. I try to push through each day. I learned from my mother that 2 years ago, my affair partner's ex-wife started visiting my ex. She's still been coming around, and honestly, I don't care. I just want him to forgive me. I want him to talk to me. I want him beside me again. I want him to look at me the way he used to. I want my kids next to us. I just want my family back. But I know I don't deserve it. Even if, by some impossible miracle, we became a family again, it would never be the same. I was selfish, and I wish I could take it all back. This is a response to my mother's post. My selfishness ruined my family on AR support for wayward. I'm a regular on Reddit, so I'm using a throwaway. I really don't want anyone in my personal life to know this is me. I work hard to keep my past hidden. My college friends don't even know my dad went to prison. I don't plan to tell them either. So when I walked around campus and overheard people talking about that Reddit post and sharing it, it brought back a flood of emotions I've been trying to bury. I looked it up, and there was enough personal detail in it to know it was about my family. And I was furious. I reached out to my mother. Of course, she started crying right away. When I went to see my dad and told him what I'd done, he yelled at me. My father is a good man. He only yelled at me for cursing, not because he was cruel, but because he believed in respect. My mother tells me I don't have to love her, but I do have to respect her. That's hard for me. It's hard to respect someone who caused so much damage. My father always struggled, always taught us to be grateful. He used to drill it into our heads. How lucky we were to grow up in a place where you wouldn't get jumped for getting good grades or reading a book. He told us how different it was for him in the South Bronx. My aunts told us he joined a gang at 13, just so he could be left alone long enough to go to school. When he was 15, his father died of cancer. My dad had to become a surrogate parent to his 2 sisters. There was no life insurance, so he worked whatever jobs he could find, just to help with rent, just to keep food on the table while still going to school. He told us he was lucky his mother eventually remarried a good man and moved them upstate for a better life. From what my uncle shared, when my dad first arrived at his new school, he stood out. It was the early 90s. My dad showed up in baggy clothes and a Puerto Rican flag t-shirt. My uncle and his friends decided to mess with him, thinking he'd be an easy target. But my dad didn't back down. He fought back and beat them. But instead of just walking away, my dad helped him up and asked if he wanted to skip class, share a 40, and talk things out. That moment changed everything. My uncle said he knew right then they'd be friends. Eventually, my uncle introduced my dad to my mom, and they hit it off immediately. They went to the same college, and by the end of freshman year, they were married. Growing up, my parents were that couple. The overly affectionate, always kissing, holding hands type. It was embarrassing, but it was also beautiful. Even during the beginning of my senior year, when everything was starting to fall apart, my dad was still acting like a teenager around my mom. He adored her. He respected her. He never worshipped her, though. He never put her on a pedestal. He used to lecture me about that. A woman won't respect a man who places her on a pedestal, because she'll always be looking down on you. He said you treat your wife as your equal, your best friend, your confidant, just as she should treat you. My dad had his quirks. He was a big guy, 5'11", 260 pounds, and full of jokes. But despite his size, he was incredibly active. I loved it when he sang to my mom. We all did. He used to serenade her, bring her flowers for no reason, and write cards that said, "Because it's Thursday, and I was thinking about you." He wrote her love letters, defended her whenever someone disrespected her, constantly told her how beautiful she was. He showed my sisters the kind of man they should one day choose, and when it came to my uncle, my dad never gave up on him, even when everyone else had. He stood by him, supported him, knocked the stupidity out of him, as Grandpa used to say, and left behind the man he was supposed to be. That always made me laugh. My father showed me what it meant to be a man, a husband, and a friend. And before the affair, my mother loved him deeply. He always supported her. He was her personal cheerleader when she was struggling, and she was his. To us, they had the marriage everyone wanted. And then my mom ruined it. I remember those months. The way she talked to my dad, like he was beneath her, and he pushed back, but always with restraint. Even though he had a college degree and a successful career as a financial advisor, he could flip from calm to South Bronx in 5 seconds flat. Grandma used to say he was like his father, kind, respectful, generous, but wouldn't hesitate to rip your throat out if you crossed the line. My dad tried everything. He bought her flowers, asked her out to dinner, wanted to go dancing, but she was somewhere else. Mentally, emotionally, she treated him like trash, and we all saw it. It hurt all of us, especially my brother and twin sisters. Still, Dad would smile and say they'd work it out. He told us Mom was just stressed from work and maybe bringing that stress home. I believed him, especially after she quit her job. I honestly thought it was her job that was the problem. Then Dad got arrested. Mom, do you have any idea how humiliated we were when everyone at school found out? Everyone was talking about it, about how our dad was arrested because our mom couldn't keep her legs closed. I couldn't even look at you. That's why I went to stay at Grandma's. The very sight of you made me sick. When I visited Dad in jail, he couldn't look at me either. He was so ashamed. He told me he failed as a husband, failed as a man. I told him that wasn't true, but he said a real man would have thought about the consequences before doing something so goddamn stupid, and that he failed as a husband because his wife slept with another man. I begged him to look at me, but he wouldn't. Then you had the nerve to ask us for forgiveness. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to hurt you. We were all bleeding, and you wanted forgiveness? Really? Sitting in that courtroom listening to that 911 call was the most painful 25 minutes of my life. 25 minutes of hearing my father, who would have killed or died for you, crying on the phone, begging the operator for help, telling her he thought he'd killed someone, hearing that dispatcher try to keep him calm while he repeated over and over, "The love of my life cheated on me." That destroyed us. And then you got up and testified on his behalf. We told you not to. Every single one of us begged you not to, but you did it anyway. Why? So you could show us that you still loved him? To tell the court he was a good man? To me, that backfired. That cross-examination, when you told everyone how long the affair lasted, was the nail in the coffin. That's why he got sentenced. And I swear, if we'd had a real lawyer instead of a court-appointed one, he would have walked. After all that, I fell apart. I had anger issues. My brother started drinking in secret. One of the twins became suicidal, and you didn't even notice. You were too busy chasing forgiveness, too wrapped up in trying to fix things with Dad. You left me to pick up the pieces. I hated you. Part of me still does. When I went off to college, I wanted nothing to do with you. Like Dad, I had to step into the role of surrogate parent. I worked full-time, went to school, and still sent you money to help cover the bills. Yet you acted like you were doing it all on your own. I know it was hard. I know you were depressed, but you weren't alone. Grandma helped, and yes, she defended you, but only because everyone else had turned their backs. That's what the twins believed too. When Dad got stabbed, I nearly had a breakdown. I had just seen him that same day. We joked about how jacked he'd gotten in prison. He even made a dumb commercial-style joke, calling it the prison body plan. We laughed about it. Then, halfway back to school, I got the call. My mind went blank. I nearly crashed the car. It broke us. All over again. I never told anyone this, but I went to that bastard's apartment afterward. I sat outside, wanting to beat the living shit out of him. But when I saw him walking with a cane, I remembered what Dad told me about letting go, and I drove away. Years went by. Grandma died. Then Grandpa passed just a few days later, literally from a broken heart, and Dad couldn't even attend their funerals. Did you know both his sisters got married in the waiting area of the correctional facility, just so Dad could be there to give them away? That's the kind of pain you brought down on all of us. You kept asking us to forgive you, over and over, but you never gave us space to breathe. You never let us process anything. You just kept pushing, like we owed it to you. But all it felt like was you trying to ease your own guilt. You didn't give a damn about our healing. You didn't try when it mattered most. You didn't fight for us when it counted. Yes, you tried later, but not when we needed you the most. When Dad got out, he told us to talk to you, told us that despite everything, you were still a good mother, and we should respect you. So we did, and it made you happy, for a little while. For a brief moment I remembered what it felt like not to hate you. Dad struggled to find work after he got out, but one of his old clients brought him back on. Things started to look up, but I didn't expect the twins to drop that bomb on you. Dad never wanted you to find out he was out. When you showed up, it shook him. After you left, he ran to the bathroom and threw up. He told me seeing you made him physically sick, and about that comment in your post, about the ex-wife coming to visit him. She's been visiting him weekly for over 3 years. They've been spending time together since the day he got out. So please, stop building fantasies about the two of you getting back together. That's not going to happen. If you really want to talk about this, call me. If you truly want to fix things with your children, call me. But what you did last week, posting what might be the most painful and humiliating moment in all of our lives, that was pure selfishness. Just like the title of your post said. I told Dad about it. He doesn't care. His words were clear. You're just the mother of my children, nothing more.